Om Yoga Maharishi Dr. Swami Geeta Ananda Giri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai. Namaste, Swagatam, Vanakkam, Buongiorno, Buonasera, Buonanotte, depending on which part of the world you are logging into for this. We have been looking at the concept of Hasta Mudras, the hand gestures. And we have seen that these hand gestures are much more than mere gestures as people understand by the word gesture. Mudras are tools of communication. They are tools by which we can communicate with others. They are tools by which we can communicate with ourselves. And they are tools through which we can communicate with the universe itself. Interpersonal communication with others, interpersonal and transpersonal communication with the cosmos itself. A mudra is a seal for energy, because you are sealing your intent. You are sealing your intent. What is it that you wish to communicate? What is the intent behind your communication? What is the purpose of your communication? All of that is implied in the word mudra. And hasta refers to the hands, the extension of the heart. The heart is hridaya. Hridaya is the heart. Hasta is the hand. And the hasta is the extension of the hridaya. The heart is where we sort of connect with something very deep. And this is why whenever we talk about the higher quality, we talk about those qualities as being heartfelt, heartfulness, heartful. Because it is when we go deep into our heart that we actually start to connect with something which is very, very deep. Now today I wanted to expand on the concept of Sparsha Mudra. Sparsha means touch. The Tamil equivalent is Sparidam or Paridam, because this Sha sound we don't originally have in Sanskrit. We have imported it from Sanskrit. I mean, in Tamil we don't have it, we have imported it from Sanskrit. So, Paridam or Sparidam. And one of the forms of Diksha, the initiation by the Guru to the Shishya, is called Sparsha Diksha, whereby the touch of the Guru, the initiation occurs. When we do the Surya Namaskar, we come down onto the ground and we prostrate before the sun, that solar energy which is a manifestation of the cosmos. And we touch 8 points of the body. We call it Ashtanga Bhumi Sparsha. We of course have the Shadanga Namaskar, where you lie totally flat, and the Panchanga Namaskar, which is more when the women, they kneel and they bend forward in the similar prostration. The word Sparsha literally means touch. And touch is one of the 10 senses that we are dealing with. A few sessions back, I mentioned how Ravana with his 10 heads is a metaphor for the uncontrolled senses. When the senses are in an uncontrolled udaranam state, when the senses are out of our control, the 10 senses are out of the control, it becomes Ravana. And when the 10 senses, which are like 10 chariots running in all directions, are brought under control, it is Dasharatha. Dasharatha is the father of Lord Rama. And Dasharatha signifies a metaphor of someone who has controlled all the 10 senses. Dasharatha. Ratha is a chariot. It doesn't mean he was at one time riding 10 chariots. People take these things literally. It's a metaphor. These 10 senses include the 5 common jnana indriya, the senses of cognition, to see, to hear, to touch, to smell and to taste. Shrotra, hearing, sparsha, to touch, chakshu, for the eyes, jivva, the tongue that gives you the rasana, and nasa, that gives you the grana, the gandha through the grana. These are the 5 jnana indriyas. But then we also talk about the 5 karma indriyas. Pada, pani, payu, upastha and all that. What we are talking about there is pada, the locomotion, the sense of locomotion. Pani, the sense of dexterity. Vak, the sense of communication. Upastha, the sense of reproduction. And payu, the sense of excretion. So the 5 cognitive senses and the 5 senses of action. The 5 jnana indriya, 5 karma indriya make up our dasendriya. The 10 indriyas, the 10 senses that we talk about, dasendriya. Of course, the manas, mind, is the ekendriya or the 11th sense because it is the super sense. The mind is above because the mind is above the 10 senses. Pratyahara is when the mind withdraws itself and the senses fall flat. In the schematic of the tattvas, we see that the sattva guna manifests through the mana, and from there come the jnanendriya, karmendriya, all these experiences that we have. So sparsha or touch is one of the dasendriya and it is one of the jnana indriya. So to be able to touch, now that word touch can mean physical touch, but it can also mean an experience of being touched in a very positive way. I'm not talking about the negative, bad touch, good touch, which is now a major issue in society. You know, when someone does something that is really heartful, when somebody does something that is something that really means so much to you, you say that I have been touched by what they did. I have been touched by what they say. This is an experience where an action has actually resulted in that parasensory experience of being touched. It is a metaphoric touch. It is a figurative touch, not a literal touch. Why do we feel like that? Because the hands, which are a very important component of touch, the physical touch, are connected to your heart. As I started off today, the hands are an extension of the heart. The hasta are the extension of the hridaya. So, when we reach out to someone, we are in fact reaching out from the heart through the hands and connecting to the person. That is where touch comes in as a means of connectivity. Touch becomes a sense of connectivity between two individuals, two societies, two planets. There's that beautiful old painting of God and human being touching. the finger touching across the worlds. The hands are the medium through which we sense touch. A very important part, and we are always reaching out to touch things, touch people, to know where we are. Because the hands, when we touch, give us a sense of where we are and enable us to be guided where we need to go. Now coming into the mudra, the Sparsha Mudra. The Sparsha Mudra, called the touching gesture, is a mudra through which you experience that jnana indriya of sparsha, and the hands become a medium through which you can focus the mind. In Bharatanatyam, the South Indian classical dance, we say, Yato hastas tato dhrishti, Yato dhrishti tato manah, Yato manat tato bhavo, Yato bhavas tato rasah. Where the hands go, Yato hastas tato dhrishti, where your hands go, the eyes follow. Yato drishtis tato manaha, where your eyes go, the mind follows. So the hands have led the eye, the eyes have led the mind. Yato hastas tato drishti, yato drishtis tato manaha, yato manas tato bhava. That bhava, the emoting, the emotional attitude is brought out by that mana. Where the mind goes, the attitude follows. Yato manas tato bhavo, yato bhavas tato rasaha. The experience, the anubhava, the rasa, the essence of that experience is brought out when all of this comes together. Yato hastas tato drishti, yato drishtis tato manah, yato manas tato bhavo, yato bhavas tato rasaha. This is the same principle that is found when we use the hasta mudras here as sparsha mudra. So sparsha means to touch. So I can be touching the top of my head. It is a sparsha. I can be touching my forehead. It is a sparsha. I can be touching my ears. It is a sparsha. I can be touching my shoulders. It is a sparsha. I can be touching my knees. It is a sparsha. And normally when we are using the sparsha mudra, we are using it here to enhance our awareness about the different parts of the lungs. We have the lower part of the lungs, the middle part of the lungs, the upper part of the lungs. So the lower part of the lungs are called the adama. They are the base, the foundation on which everything else is built. Adama. Remember first man, Adam? Adama, Adam. Okay? Adama is the foundation, it is the base, it is the lower part of your lungs. And remember, the lungs are on the front, side and back. People often forget about the side and the back. They think lungs are only on the front. Because they've always seen the diagram with the lungs on the front, they forget there's something called a side and back to the lungs. Lungs are 360 degrees. You have to think of a 3D model, not a 2D drawing a picture. The lower part of the lungs is called adama. The middle part of the lungs is called madhyama. Madhya means the middle. Madhyama is the middle part of the lungs. The upper part is called adhyama. Adi, or the highest or the higher. Adi, adhyama. Adhama, madhyama, adhyama. So Adam, madhyam, adi. Adham, madhyam, adi. These are the three parts of your lungs. Adama, madhyama, adhyama, or Adam, madhyam, adi. So these three parts of your lungs, they are having front, side and back. Okay? Front, side and back for the low lung. Front, side, back for the mid lung. Front, side, back for the upper lung. Which means that we are talking of 9 sections or subsections on each lung. So the right lung, front, side, back, front, side, back, front, side, back. 9. Left lung, front, side, back, front, side, back, front, side, back. So you are talking of 9 sections in each lung. This is called Vibhaga. Bhaga means a section. Vibhaga means a subsection. A fine section is called Vibhaga. Bhaga is one part. For example, when we talk about Shiva and Shakti, we say Vama Bhaga. What he has done is Lord Shiva gives the Vama Bhaga. He gives the left side to Parvati. Komalanga Kameshwara Vamabhaga Shadani. When we talk about Devi, we say Komalanga, you are Komalanga. Komalanga Kameshwara. Lord Shiva is Kameshwara. Kameshwara Vamabhaga Sadhani. You are having the left part. Vama is left, Bhaga part. So Bhaga means a part. So Adama, Madhyama, Adhyama are Bhaga. But then each has subsections, Vibhaga. So you have the front side back, front side back, front side back on each one. These are called the Vibhaga. And in the Gita Ananda tradition, we give great importance to learn how to utilize each of these subsections mindfully. Most of the time, what is happening, people go to yoga sessions and they say, we'll start Pranayama. And straight away they start Anulom Vilom Nadi Shuddhi. And so you always find people doing something like this. All this type of funny gestures you find people doing. I don't know where this one came in. Huh? It's like, kids making fun of each other. I see people doing pranayama like this. I'm like, either use the Nasika Nasaraga Mudra or the Vishnu Mudra. Huh? There are mudras for this, or some people use mudras like that. There are some specific mudras you use. No? People start off Nadi Shuddhi, Anulom Vilom. It's seated. Good exercise for your arms. And they're doing all of this so-called pranayama, but they're not breathing in the first place. Now, if you're not breathing and you're just doing this, it is a good finger-nose exercise. It is not pranayama. It is not pranayama if you're not breathing. They have not learned how to breathe. There is no consciousness of the breath at all. Without the consciousness of breath, they want to do pranayama. Where will the prana be? It's not even vayu yama. It is just a finger-nose exercise. At least, there should be a basic understanding of the prana. That is why in Gita Ananda tradition, we spend a lot of time on the Vibhaga. Because the Vibhaga, when you start to understand each of these subsections, when you have an understanding of these subsections, that is where your mind starts to focus in those sections. And if your mind focuses there, the prana will flow there. Yato mana tata prana. Where the mind goes, the prana will flow. I once had someone in a conference, he was on the same panel with me. He is a big pranayama expert. And he said, in order to save time, that he used to tell his clients, his patients, to do pranayama watching television. All the soap operas are television. Normally in conferences and panels, I keep quiet. I just give my speech and keep quiet so that gangster yogi doesn't come out. But that day, I really got me. I said, see, when you are watching television, your mind is totally in that television serial and who's going to kill whom and who's going to run away with whose wife and, who's going to poison whose food and will Nagin, that snake, come into female form or go back into snake. Your mind is totally locked into that soap opera. And if your mind is locked in the soap opera and you are doing breathing, where is the prana going to be? In the soap opera, not in your breath. And when I said that, he said, yes, Dr. Ananda is very correct. This is how you respond when someone says something that points out your mistake. You tell them they are correct and then you justify. So what he said, Dr. Ananda is very correct. But what Dr. Ananda is talking about is spiritual pranayama, and what I have been talking about is therapeutic pranayama. Watching television doing pranayama is therapeutic pranayama. So after that I said, I have a flight to catch and I left the panel to go to the airport. Better to spend time in the airport than being on a panel with such idiots, yoga idiots. Nowadays in COVID times we have COVID idiots, we have a lot of yoga idiots also. Watching television and performing pranayama, it is absolute idiocracy. Your mind has to be focused. Where your mind goes, the energy flows. So we want to focus on each of these components mindfully. And before that, there is a question from Soundarajan. Because when in the Shaiva tradition we take the Vibhuti, Tir-Nir. Mandiram avadum nire, Vanavar meladhe nire, Sundaram avadum nire, Tudikka paduvadum nire. And what we do, we take that and we apply on the forehead, the 3 lines with the Vibhuti and the mantra that is given by Jnana Sambandha, giving the amazing quality of the Tirunir, a protective, a healing aspect. The ashes are the healing. Mandiram avadum nire, Vanavar meladhe nire, Sundaram avadum nire, Tudikka paduvadum nire, Tandiram avadum nire, Samayatil ulladum nire, Senduvar vayumai pangan tir, Alavayan tir nire, Alavayan tir nire. And as this is done, there is an awareness brought to the important, vital parts of the body, the marmas. The marmas are becoming part of your consciousness. Normally, you don't think about your body in that way. And the important points on the body, they are highlighted with the vibhuti, the tirunir. So it is part of the sparsha, of course. Coming back, when we do the Sparsha Mudra, we place our hands on the lower part of the lungs. Now the lower part of the lungs, if you want to know it, you just have to, the bottom of your rib cage. This bottom of the rib cage gives you an idea. So along the bottom of the rib cage, people put it down on the stomach. Please remember, you don't breathe in your stomach, please. You do not breathe in your stomach. You breathe into your lungs. And your lungs are above the diaphragm. Your stomach is below the diaphragm. The lungs and the diaphragm are not connected anatomically, physiologically, or in any other way. People talk about breathing into the stomach. I'm like, for God's sake, go learn your anatomy first. If you breathe into your stomach, that wind has to come out the other end. And it will come out in a socially unexpected manner, which is called an FART. Okay, so be careful. Don't breathe into your stomach. The only time you want to breathe into your stomach is when you want to do Plavini. Plavini is one of the classical pranayamas where you breathe into your stomach, fill your stomach with air so that you will float. Plavini is the floating pranayama. And there is a reason you do it, okay? And be careful after Plavini, don't go into any society area, go out into the forest where only the trees know what you have been putting out through your other end, okay? You breathe into your lungs, the lower part of your lungs which are sitting above the diaphragm. The diaphragm goes down. The diaphragm goes down. Because the diaphragm goes down, the lower part of the lungs is pulled down and the air goes into that region. Now, because your diaphragm goes down, the abdominal organs are pushed down and hence the abdomen goes outward. The abdomen goes outward, not the stomach. The abdomen goes outward because the diaphragm is going down. People always have this question. When I breathe in, do I have to push my abdomen out? You don't have to push anything out. You just have to let the diaphragm go down. And that is why when consciously you are letting the diaphragm go down, the diaphragm goes down, the abdominal organs are pushed down and automatically the abdomen expands outward. The abdomen expanding outward is an effect of the diaphragm going down. You don't push your abdomen. I find people like, I don't know what they are doing. I'm pushing the abdomen out. Now your abdomen is passively it is going out because of the diaphragm going down. Okay, you're not breathing into your stomach. People are, now breathe, let's do stomach breathing. Breathing into your stomach. Watch out, run away from that class. It will start to smell a lot in a few moments. That's gangster yogi. Okay, fine. Coming back. The rib cage is your guideline. Placing your hands here. When you place your hands here and you start to let your mind, what are the hands doing? The hands are creating an anchorage so your mind can flow into that region. And you breathe out. And then as you breathe in, you be aware as your fingers move apart. And then you breathe out. Breathing in. And breathing out. The same thing we do at the mid-chest region. This is very, very important. This is the part where you are placing your hands over your, basically over your breast area. And when you do here, again you bring your hands together like this so that when you breathe out. Now you breathe in. And then breathe out. Breathing in. And breathing out. So what the hands are doing, it is giving you a scaffolding, it is giving you the anchorage so that your mind can go there. When your mind goes there, the prana flows as you breathe into that region. The Adama Shwasa or the Adam Pranayama. Madhyama Shwasa or Madhyama. We then come into the upper chest region, the Adhyama. Adhyam Pranayama. Breathing in. Breathing out. The Adama Sparsha, Madhyama Sparsha, Adhyama Sparsha. So there are 3 Sparsha Mudras being used. When you place your hands on the lower part of the lungs, the middle part of the lungs and the upper part of the lungs. The Sparsha Mudra, the touching gesture, the gesture of touch, is a means for you to connect with the part of the lung that you want to expand primarily when you do the Vibhaga Pranayama. Similarly, when we are doing the front, then when we are doing the side, and then when we are doing the back. Similarly, the front, middle, side, middle, and the back, middle. The front, upper. Now the Sparsha Mudra for instead of placing it under the armpit, we place it down on the side of the hip. And the reason is that this region is a very sensitive region, the axilla, the armpits. Lot of nerves are there, blood vessels, lymphatics, and if you place your hands there too much, you will be resulting in some stimulus that you don't want to happen. This area, that is where we use the yoga danda. This side here, this side here. And what will happen is you will start to have like a yoga danda effect happening, which is not what you want to do. So what we do is that we do the Adhyama Sparsha on the front here. We place the hands on the side here, but we are thinking here. So this is just so that you have a similar understanding. And embryologically, these two areas are quite close. So your nervous system will actually understand what you're doing. And then you bring your hands behind you for the Manduka Mudra. And you are placing your hands on the back upper part of your lungs. So Adhyama Sparsha, Madhyama Sparsha, Adhyama Sparsha. And similarly, in the Adhyama Sparsha, the front, side, back. Madhyama Sparsha, front, side, back. Adhyama Sparsha, front, side, and back. So there are the 9 Sparsha Mudras being used for the 9 subsections of your lungs. And these subsections medically are known as the bronchopulmonary segments. That each lung has a bronchopulmonary segment. They used to say there are 9, now we have come to know there are 10. There was controversy whether it is 7 and 8 or 8 and 9, 9 and 10, and now it's come to 10 in each lung. Both lungs have equal amount of segments, bronchopulmonary segment, which has a bronchus, that is an air supply. Pulmonary, it has the blood supply, it has its own lymphatics, and it has its own neuronal supply. Air supply, blood supply, lymphatics, and nerve supply. And it's like its own unit. When we talk about it, I like to say it's like the country is the whole lung. The states of each of that country are like the lobes, and then the districts are like these bronchopulmonary segments. So the districts make up the states make up the country. Bronchopulmonary segments make up the lobes make up the lung. This is one way to understand it. So these mudras, the Sparsha Mudras, are a way for you to touch and connect. Touching is connecting. You reach out and touch someone. Keep in touch. We haven't been in touch for a long time, which means we have not connected. Reach out and touch someone means to connect with them heart to heart, because the hands are the extension of the heart. And so you are touching. You are connecting. And so when you perform these Sparsha Mudras for the Adhyama, the lower lung, Madhyama, the middle lung, and Adhyama, the upper lungs, these are mudras by which you are connecting mindfully with these components of your breathing apparatus. And when you do this, it becomes the Vibhaga Pranayama, the Pranayama where the mind is channelizing the prana into all these subunits. The subunits on the right, the subunits on the left. And at that point, your breathing is truly becoming a pranayama, because now the mind is channelizing the prana. Yato mana tata prana. So the mind is channelizing the prana. And what are the Sparsha Mudras doing? They are giving you the guideline. They are giving you the scaffolding. They are giving you the anchor so that your mind can focus in those areas. The power of touch is very, very important. We can never underestimate the power of touch. The healing touch. A power of a hug, which is an extended arm that is connecting the heart. The oxytocin that is secreted when you give a nice hug, a prolonged hug. Bonding hormone, oxytocin. You are connecting with yourself. Most people have become so disconnected from their own body that the mind and body are like two people who hate each other and having to live in a single bedroom flat all the time. No wonder the dichotomy is leading to so many mental health issues. We need to reconnect positively with ourselves. The only time we think about the body is when we have pain in that part of the body, or that part of the body is not functioning properly. What we are doing what we are doing is that we are trying to have a positive relationship, connect in a positive way. Let the mind and body connect with each other in a very positive way. I think this is so vital for us. So let us perform the Sparsha Mudras and connect with our own self using the hands to create a connection between the mind and the body, focusing on each and every component of your lungs, so that when you breathe, that breath becomes a vehicle, a vahana for the prana to move. And when the prana moves through your breath, each and every component of your lung is going to work as it should. When your lungs are working as they should, every part of your body is going to work as it should. The lungs need to be healthy for all the other systems to be healthy. And the Vibhaga Pranayama enables that to happen. And the Sparsha Mudras, the gestures of touch, are such a beautiful way that we are touching ourselves in a healthy manner. We are reaching out and touching ourselves so that the mind and body can have a beautiful, harmonious coexistence. A symbiotic, supportive, commensurative, they call it mutually beneficial, commensal. That type of relationship you want between the mind and the body. When we do that, it is beautiful. And that is why Sparsha or Paridam in Tamil is such an important component of us connecting with ourselves. Do not forget, the most important person you need to connect with is your own self. The most important person you need to connect with is with your own self. The most important person you need to keep in touch with is your own self. Because as Lord Krishna tells us in the Bhagavad Gita, when you know yourself, there is no greater friend. But when you don't know yourself, it can be your worst enemy. Whether it is going to be a bandhu or whether it's going to be a ripu, the same Atma. Atmaivahi, Atmano bandhu, Atmaiva ripu, Atmanaha. When you know yourself, when you're connected to yourself, you are your best friend. When you're disconnected from yourself, you are your worst enemy. Fine? So with those thoughts, we end today's Scintillating Saturdays. We keep them coming. We are on to the first day of Navaratri. Yesterday was the Amavasya, where we get things ready for it. It was also Devasana's birthday, and Shailaja and Devasana had a lovely conversation on Facebook. It was a very beautiful conversation. And Divya started her Navaratri series. This time it is called Navaratri Kala Yajna. A yajna is an effort we make, a self-effort we make to purify the self, where the lower offered into the fire for the higher to manifest, the fire of transformation that transforms the lower into the higher. It is a yajna. And this is a yajna with the kala, with the fine arts. And we'll have music, we have dance, and we have storytelling. And so keep supporting Divya in the wonderful work she's doing. Keep supporting each other in the wonderful work we are all doing. And just remember, when we are all together, when our minds come together, well, at that point, yoga manifests. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Sarve Janaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. Om Dhanyavadaha. Thank you.